Okay. So on Tuesday, in the last class section, we had we had talked about the practice of visualization and what kind of uh, what comprises a good visualization. And one of the things that we kind of skipped over is that there's a whole process that's involved in creating data graphics. And one of the important ones is that we need to make sure that we're clarifying our business question, whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish with this chart. And then the second is that we need to choose an analysis and chart type that is going to complement or that's going to be appropriate for that business question. And so you can imagine that if we had, let's say, that if I wanted to see how what the day of the week versus how many sales I had, if I did that as a scatter plot, that would still be technically correct in the sense that that the data would be represented, but it wouldn't really be appropriate to that business question. And so for the exam, I want to emphasize 6 specific types of questions and the analyses that are going to go with them. And so the first are absolute comparisons. I didn't talk about bar charts all that much yesterday because I think that bar charts are pretty well established as within the imagination of people. And histograms are I would say something of a version of bar charts, which are talking about distributional analyses. But so I talked about spatial charts, line charts, or time series charts, and then bivariates. But bar charts, I think we all know what they are. We don't really need to go over the specifics of them. But I think we do need to go over when we would use a bar chart. And specifically, if we were trying to compare two different variables or two different categories to each other, or different categories to each other on an absolute basis, then I think we'd want a bar chart. And so this is my summary slide. This just in case you need to use this during the exam. But let's talk about bar charts specifically. So if we were dealing with an absolute analysis, which is to say that here we have our customer segments on the right, and I want to know how many sales, how many records, how many sales transactions I had in each customer segment. Then the way that I'm going to do that is, or the way that I can best represent that is with a bar chart. And so this way I can see at a glance without thinking about it that the consumer segment has fewer sales or fewer sales transactions than the corporate segment. And the corporate segment has more sales transactions than any other segment itself, and home office is second, and so on. Small business and consumer are roughly equal, although it looks like small business is maybe a hair under consumer. And so this is getting to the point of what we are trying to do with our analyses in the first place. I'll also emphasize that I did, so every graphic that's in this package is from Tableau. We're going to talk about Tableau in a little bit. But this is kind of the easiest way to determine if you have a dimension, let's say the segment, and you want to compare on an absolute basis which segment outperformed based on some measure, which is to say the number of records, the number of sales transactions. We would want to use a bar chart. Now, there's a subset of a bar chart, which is called a stacked bar chart. And we would want to use that for a relative analysis. And so, I'm going to turn my camera off so I can better display this. And so with the relative analysis, what we're doing here is we're displaying we're showing, show my laser pointer. We're showing that this is the same analysis, more or less. Except we have them all based on at the same level. So, but within this, I'm looking at the product category. And within this segment, for example, what percentage of the consumer segment was made up of technology sales? And I can see here that it's about 20, a little less than 25. And the bulk of it was office supplies. It looks like the bulk of most of my sales are office supplies. Technology is next, and furniture is next. Now, if I were to do this on an absolute basis, then these bars wouldn't all be the same size. So as we can see in our previous one, the consumer segment has 400-ish sales, 400 sales transactions. The corporate has about 700 sales transactions. I'm rounding a little bit here. But we're not concerned with how the consumer segment compares to the corporate segment. We're concerned with how the consumer segment is made up, or what product categories make up the consumer segment. So we're not comparing these bars to each other. Rather, we're looking at within each of these bars what has made them up. So these are both bar charts. This is our kind of standard bar chart, which I'll just call bar chart, and this is a stacked bar chart. You can stack a bar chart. You could, for example, have an absolute comparison with that, and I'll show you within Tableau in a second. But for the most part, if we have everything on the same level, then we're really not trying to compare consumer and corporate to each other. We're trying to compare furniture within consumer to office supplies within consumer to technology within consumer. So the next kind of analysis is a geographic analysis, and so here's an example of that. And so in this case, I had I colored each state, and it goes from a very, very light teal to a very, very dark blue, essentially. Which states cost the most to ship items to? And so it's the average shipping cost. And so each of the 50 states have a shipping cost associated with them. And then I had the states colored in on a relative basis. So it looks like the lightest state is probably North Dakota or Wyoming, and the darkest state looks like almost certainly Montana or possibly Rhode Island down here. But I can see, just based on comparing, let's say, two states together, that Minnesota is a more expensive state to ship things to than Wisconsin here, because Wisconsin is lighter, and so therefore Wisconsin has a lower average shipping cost. And the thing that we want to emphasize right here is that the reason that this map, or that this chart works, is because we're trying to take data about a state, or at a state level, and we're overlaying it on a map, and so we can very, very easily see what we're trying to get across. In this case, what the average shipping cost is. So this is an example of a spatial chart in action. Okay, so time series. Okay, time series. I guess I put those out of order. So a time series, I think I talked about how a time series is almost always going to be a line chart. And in this case, I made this. This is somewhat arbitrary, but we have our time variables here. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so this is every Sunday, every Monday, every Tuesday, and so on. But we can see that our Monday records are higher than our Sunday records, or that there seems to be a spike at the beginning of the week. It goes down on Tuesday, and then it kind of climbs up into the end of the week, and with our most expensive day being Saturday. And then we have our least, not expensive, our most populous day being Saturday. And we get the least number of sales on Sunday. And so this way we can see how our sales move throughout the week. And you can imagine that if we did this in a bar chart, again, it would work. But it just doesn't quite get the point across to the same degree. Okay, so this is a histogram, and so what we have here is this is a distributional analysis. And so Tableau, in this case, automatically decided what my bins were going to be. And so I have, and so in this case, on the x-axis, is my discount. And so, and then we have the number of records up here. And so this shows me that nearly every single sales transaction or every single item had a discount of less than 12%, 0.12. And we have like, let's say tiny little slivers here at, between 0.15 and 0.17, and then another one between 0.21 and 0.23. But we can, in this case, what we want to know is how much of a discount are we giving out for the most part, and it seems like almost all of our discounts are below 12%, and even like half of them, let's say, are less than 6. But what this means here, we have a line on 0.3, or a little bit before 0.03, it looks like. And what that is getting at is that we have 550, give or take, 550 sales transactions that have a discount between 0.00, and 0.03. And then we have a little bit more than 550 with a discount between 0.03 and 0.06, and then so on and so on. And what this tells us is of all of our sales transactions in within that period, how much of them had a discount between of less than 0.3, between 0.3 and 0.6, between 0.6 and 0.9, between 0.9 and 0.12, 9%, 12%, and so on. And then our last one are bivariate analyses, and this is the one where I didn't quite have the data within our Excel worksheet that I think would have supported this well, but what are you going to do? But in this case, we can, if I wanted to do a scatter plot of discount versus the quantity ordered, then in this case, I would say that this indicates to me that there is no relationship between them. That as the discount goes up, it doesn't really seem like the quantity ordered has any. It doesn't seem like that really affects the quantity ordered. So everything is kind of lumped. What I would expect is that there would be something somewhat noisy, but trend in the 45-ish degree angle the direction. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but this seems like if I were to draw an average regression line, it would be flat or maybe even slightly down. But the key here, or the main takeaway that I would have you consider, is that the main point of a bivariate analysis is that we have one variable on one axis, and we have one variable on the other axis, and so you have quantity order new on the x-axis, we have discount on the y-axis, and then we just plot, so for this one sales order here, they ordered 115 items and the discount was 7%, and so we put a mark there. And then the next one, the discount was 10%. They ordered 87 items, put a point there. And we just did that over and over and over again for every single line that we had. So that is what I want you to know, or what I want you to understand as far as choosing an analysis type on the exam. I would, for the most part, refer you to this chart. That is kind of everything in there summarized. Okay, so I'm gonna close that out. So the next thing